Hello, my name is Desiree Champlin. Welcome, and thank you for watching. This is Milestone 1 of Capstone Game Design. In this video, our team Firefox Games goes over each of our own unique mechanics and our respective test levels. The main menu features a user-friendly interface with 6 distinct buttons, each leading to a unique submenu tailored for seamless navigation. The design prioritizes player experience, ensuring that all options are easily accessible and visually intuitive. Focusing on the test level selection button, this submenu is designed to facilitate collaboration and showcase individual contributions. Within the test level selection submenu, players will encounter 5 buttons, each representing a different team member. Selecting a team member's button will display the specific test levels they have developed, allowing for targeted gameplay experiences and feedback. Upon entering the DC test level, players will encounter 3 distinct areas, each designed to enhance gameplay and skill development. The areas are categorized as follows. Introduce. This section serves as an introduction to the core mechanics, gradually familiarizing players with the tilting platform and its functionalities. Practice. In this area, players can refine their skills through repeated interactions with the tilting platform, allowing for experimentation and mastery of timing. Master. The final section presents more challenging scenarios, demanding precise timing and execution to overcome obstacles and progress. The primary focus of the test level is the tilting platform mechanic. This mechanic is strategically aligned with the design pillars of empowerment, clarity, and learnability. Players are given the autonomy to decide when to make their jump, fostering a sense of control and agency in their gameplay experience. The mechanics are straightforward, relying on timing for jumps, which allows players to quickly grasp the core concept and develop their skills effectively. The level is designed to balance rewards and consequences. Successfully timing a jump allows players to navigate to the next obstacle safely, reinforcing their skill development and boosting their confidence. Mistiming a jump results in falling into a designated death zone, emphasizing the importance of precision. The immediate feedback mechanism for this failure is a life loss displayed on the on-screen HUD, accompanied by the player respawning at the last checkpoint. I will illustrate the varying complexities of each zone, showcasing how players can progress from simple to advanced challenges, ultimately enhancing their gaming experience. Thank you for watching my demonstration video, and now I'll introduce my teammate Eddie.
Hi, I'm Eddie Velasquez, and today I will be presenting the mechanic that I created for Firefox games Beyond the Jump. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the build. And our game is a 3D whimsical platformer. It takes a lot of references from Spyro the Dragon, Fall Guys, in terms of like obstacles and kind of whimsical setting. So I wanted to create something that the player could interact with in the environment to help them progress through the levels, navigate, and avoid the obstacles that we do have. So I created these little spores that when you interact with them, it's accomplished via a trace channel that I created called interactable. And the line trace comes out, and when it hits that object, it turns the crosshair green, allowing you to send a message with a blueprint interface to that blueprint. Otherwise, it's blue, it's ignoring everything else. And when this is interacted with, a timeline is played that grows the platform out. Now, this timeline can be chosen, there's three of them, based on an enumerator that is set in the editor, and that will change the varying sizes of the platforms. We also have varying types of platforms. Along with that, there's two other instance editable variables. We have a construction script color that can change, and that color, red, yellow, or green, is going to correlate with the time that these platforms are out. So 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and then greater than 20 seconds. And what happens is when the time runs out, it changes colors, you see there. It plays a cue at the beginning before it starts changing. And then over the course of 2.5 seconds is what the player has to react before it actually pulls away and disappears from underneath of them. So to introduce this mechanic, what we would do is it would just be really simple, just basic platforms for the player to navigate. A little challenging, maybe a little bit bigger for that, but kind of present them with the uh, options of taking other paths. They need to use it to get up here, but they don't have to continue. You can utilize our super jump. And overall, it's just very simplistic and not too stressful. Just kind of showing them. Those first ones are just starting to go away. And moving on from that, in order to practice the mechanic, we would have the player come over here. And now we're going to start introducing more of the generic obstacles. Here we got a little treadmill, as well as these yellow spores. So now they will notice that these yellow ones are going to disappear sooner than the red ones, or excuse me, the green ones. And not necessarily always super fast, but always shorter than the green. Another alternate path here the player can choose to take. Now here, the player can choose to do this if they want to, or they can try to make this jump if they also want to, but they run the risk of hitting this obstacle or missing completely if they overshoot. So it's a risk they want to take if they're trying to like go through faster. I do apologize. I think we have a bug with this checkpoint right there. Noticed, and it's going to potentially make me respawn there if it happens, no matter where I am at now. But this path right here is optional for the player. If they manage to see it after hopping up there, this is where you can get your first little introduction, maybe to a red one. They don't need to do this. It would be out of the way. Back to my forever checkpoint. Now from here, we would continue along, and the player would need to then interact with the mechanic in order to progress from here. You cannot make this jump unless the mechanic is interacted with. It creates that, or it clears that gap. Up here, again, the player has a choice. Do we want to just go left and proceed to the end, or do we want to go right and try to get that other crystal? We're going to go ahead and go right. It's a bit more challenging. And this will be that other continued introduction to the red platforms. Again, entirely optional over here if they don't want to. And that would be examples of practicing things. Now, for the mastery zone, the player will have to overcome much more obstacles, as well as the spores themselves having much shorter times. And come over here, they've got a path, left or right. I'm gonna go right over here. This is the more rewarding path here. This one continues around from there to there, hopping over. But if they could choose to take the more difficult path, then they would be rewarded. See, that was about to disappear on me. Now here they have another choice. They can either go up and over, completely skipping this section, or they can try to get more of these crystals. Ooh, that was close. By hopping along. So once they've made it through there, they hop in and they can continue along. That's where the other path would take you. And you have to use those. I didn't hang out there very long because you have to use those to navigate through. And if you're not quick enough, as you could see, then they would pull out directly from underneath of you, and that would be the end. From there, get to this last little section. Ooh. All right. And there you go. That would be an example of having to master it. So with that, there's the different variations that we've got as the player is moving along. As you could hear, I was getting a little tense there, even still trying to make it through. And the idea really is to let the player see and have that challenge of getting through it, and utilizing and improving their hand-eye coordination to find the spore that they need to use. They jump on it. Now they're there. Oh man, it's red. How long do I have? Not long, because it's red. Find the next one, hop, 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 and make their way through. And so that concludes my presentation for my mechanic. Thank you very much.
All right, so our overall project is an obstacle course set in a whimsical low poly world. The level I have been tasked with is a frozen level. To fit with my theme, I decided to do a rolling mechanic to represent giant snowballs, and the player will need to interact with them throughout the level, as well as dodge them as obstacles that will hurt them. The rolling snowballs will hurt the player, and the stationary snowballs are able to be pushed around to clear obstacles throughout the level in order to access secret areas. So the more time the player puts into figuring out what they can do with the stationary snowballs, the more secrets they'll be able to find throughout the level. For the IPM setup, I went with an introduction of the snowballs that are set to automatically roll, and the snowballs that roll once the player passes a certain area. These obstacles allow the player to see that the snowballs can destroy other obstacles if they hit them, and these stationary snowballs allow the player to see that they can indeed roll the snowballs to destroy things that are blocking their paths. Now you can see that the player feedback has attenuated sound, and once the snowball reaches a speed at which it can hurt the player, it will start that emitter and playing the rolling sounds. When the so for the practice, there is more obstacles and more snowballs for the player to dodge, and then with the mastery portion, there are lots of snowballs and another snowball that the player can interact with to reveal the path forward to the end of the level. There is a there is a crash sound that happens when the snowballs hit something that they can break, and they're destroyed. Alright, for the player to be able to learn the mechanic, at the start of the level, I intend to have a similar setup to this with one or two snowballs at the front that show the player that there are some that roll automatically and some that roll once the player reaches a certain point. And then for beyond the introduction, it'll be set up similar to what I have down there at the start of this. And then as the player moves throughout the level, they're able to play around more with these stationary snowballs. And I intend to have secret areas that are not very near stationary snowballs, so they'll have to experiment with rolling them to different parts of the level. And so as far as reward and punishment goes, if the player, this is reward here, you can bust up and reveal paths forward and make it to where you can move along, as well as reveal secret areas. This isn't really a secret area, but it's just kind of a representation of the player may be able to see a crystal there but not know where the entrance is, and that'll give them, that should encourage them to look for the secret entrance, which will be blocked by either spikes or thin ice, that the player can push the stationary snowball from somewhere nearby into, destroy that part of the obstacle, and access the secret. And then they also can use the rolling snowballs to their advantage if they time their traversal through the level. I hope to set it to where rolling snowballs will not always affect all of the other obstacles throughout the level or in that section of the level, but to but some of them will if the player waits long enough for the snowball to hit the obstacle. So they can use the rolling snowballs to their advantage that are already rolling in the level, and then obviously the interactable snowballs as well. So that is my level. Thanks for watching. And I guess it doesn't quit. And there's the crash and the snow settling sound.
Hello, I will be demonstrating my level, or our level that we have been making so far, and then my level inside the game. So first, I'm going to open it up and explain the game and my level. So as you see, this is called Beyond the Jump. And if we go over to my test level is a desert type level. So if once we log in or get in, you're gonna see it's gonna be mostly brownish rocks, sandy material for my level. This is more my test mechanics where I'll show each mechanic. The vision is to, like I said, make it look like it's, in a desert. I have the sun at the very highest point to make it look like it's super hot. I was thinking of adding like some type of aesthetic to make it look like it's really hot as well in the game, like a good haze, like a heat haze or something like that. The player is basically just going to go around the level, and they will see different mechanics like these. I will have these probably together as well to make it even harder for them to get through. Um, so I'll show you how to engage each mechanic here. So the IPM, the introduce, practice, and master. This side is my quicksand side. As you see, you can introduce here right when you walk up to it. Say, hey, caution, there's quicksand. So basically, just jump over, and if you get inside, if you touch anything inside there, you will start to sink and die. Just to let you know, right now, if you die, you get spawned all the way to, I think, the origin of this build. So if I die, I'll just have to restart, and you'll see that if I die, if I mess up. But this is more my introduction, and then I've made these two my practice. So you practice, you go through, and then this is the master. So you have a little bit harder. You just have to try to make your way through without touching the quicksand. There we go. So that was the master part. You have a little bit harder, but I'll show, like I said, once you get in there, you can move around, but you will die. But this is what I talked about, saying you go back to the origin, so we need to add a checkpoint. Um, so we are going to quit and then go back. And then the next part is the cactus. So these are simple. If you touch the cactus that moves up, even if they are down as well, you will die. So you have to be careful with that. He does, for some reason, when I touch them, he doesn't die right away. It takes like a second or two, and then he dies. But I don't have a delay, so a little confused on that. But it is something we're gonna have to try to fix. But basically, yeah, I'm gonna die. Okay. I hit shift except for jump. So oops. So let's start that again. So basically, the introduce and the practice is basically here you're introduced and you have some practice to jump over them, and then oh no, that was the introduce. Then you can practice with them being different. So they're now on the ceiling, on the rocks. There we go. And then the master is going through these, trying not to hit anything. We have cactus on the ceiling. We have cactus on the ground. You can't jump or you hit your head. And then they're all facing different ways and moving different ways. So I have a lot of ideas when it comes to making this even more fun. Like either probably making the cactus longer, or just putting them in like just different areas so the player can find a way to like escape this area and not like touch anything. Because right now it seems a little easy because you can just walk through, but definitely will make it a little harder once we start making the game. And then the next part, if I can make it without dying, is a falling rock mechanic. So over here, once you hit a area, it's gonna make rocks fall. If the rocks hit you, you will die, and they respawn. So as you can see right now, I I have a bug where when one rock hits the respawn, it respawns all of them, but I want it to only do it to one. So right now it's a little buggy, but I'm hoping to fix it soon. But I'm trying to find a good spot so I can just run by them without getting hit. Yeah, so there's the introduction part. Then there's another one here just to catch you. And then we have the practice of when they fall from the sky. So this happens because of what happens here. When one of them hits it, they eat. All of them go to to the same area, and they teleport all of them. So I don't know if I have to make only one and then separate it, or make, but well, I'll have to figure it out. But this is the problem I have right now, and then I have another problem with the same one. Oh, it almost hit me. And then for the next part, we'll be dealing with both. We'll be dealing with falling rocks. You'll be dealing with the ones that fall from the ground. Let me just run right through them. Oh, that hit me. Alright, but as you see, you can't just run right through them because you'll get hit. So basically, I do have a problem right now with when it comes to the falling rocks or the rocks itself. I'm going to have to try my best to figure that out. And it touched me. Okay, but basically those are my 3 mechanics that I've made and my test level as well. We have the cactus, the falling rocks, the sliding rocks, and the quicksand. So that is what I have for my level at the moment. Let me see a second. Yep, that's all I have. So I might have to edit this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day.
Hey, I'm Jonah, and this is my segment of my team's milestone submission video. For this sprint, my main mechanic that I worked on was Coyote Time, and then I also worked on bug fixes, particularly in relation to audio and our run/sprint mechanic, swapping inputs to make them feel better, working with the character movement blueprint, doing some code restructuring, cleaning up, varying jump height was added in as well as a substitute for a previously existing mechanic. And then I also did tuning for the character movement component and contributed to the file organization for one of our many attempts at trying to downsize the amount of files that we had. So I'm going to go here into our builds that we have in the build folder. I'm going to run it right here. And then here's our menu. I'm going to go down to the level selection, and then I'm going to go into my test level. So first off, for the game vision, our project's design pillars are core gameplay mechanics, player empowerment, challenge reward balance, and immersion and engagement. Improving the responsiveness, control, and consistency of the player's movement supports the core gameplay mechanic, empowers the player by making them feel in control of the player avatar, makes challenges feel fair because of the consistency of the character's movement, and prevents the player's immersion from breaking due to unresponsive controls and overly tight jump timing. For player agency, the Coyote Time mechanic interacts with the player and the world by allowing the player to have more consistency when jumping as they decide where to go and how to overcome platforming challenges during gameplay. This is especially noticeable when the character is in low stress parts of the world, where small insignificant jumps are easily cleared by this safety net that Coyote Time serves as. For clarity and learnability, this mechanic is not meant to be focused on by the player. It's supposed to serve a helping hand to improve the player's experience rather than introduce a new skill for them to learn. For testing, a string is printed in the top left, which I'll show here when you do a successful coyote jump, as you can see to the top left there. But the goal for this mechanic is for it to be in the background and provide a small safety net for the player. For the reward and punishment, success makes the player feel relief that the obstacle they jumped over has been cleared and satisfied that the character is responding consistently to their inputs. Failure causes the player to lose progress and understand that they need to time the jump better, whether they missed the jump entirely or fell short during a long jump because they were reliant on Coyote Time. The player cannot ignore these results. So right here, for this part of the IPM, is going to be introducing the jump, since everything I did was pretty tied to the core movement of jump and sprint. That's what I did for it. And so this first step right here is going to be the minimum jump height. This is going to be around the average jump height. And this right here requires the maximum hold time for the jump to get up there. And so for the reward and punishment section, kind of what I was talking about is that the amount of distance that you can get off of a well-timed jump when you fully hold is going to be shorter than if Coyote Jump had to kick in to kind of save you. So on really tight jumps, which you'll see over here in the mastery section, a Coyote Jump isn't enough. It has to be a full, well-timed jump, so it still has that risk-reward element that needs to be there, while helping just the general gameplay feel better. And tying into the feedback section, which is up next, allows the player to see that the game is acknowledging that they did a jump input rather than just doing nothing because they were slightly too late. And then also hearing the audio is another way of making sure that the player understands what's going on. And then the situations where a non-Coyote Time jump is held unchanged, the instances in which the mechanic is in place, there is the potential for the player to be confused as to why their jump was too small, but that'll have the same effect as if they were to miss the jump otherwise. It just makes them feel like they are more in control than they would have otherwise. And then for the last section, iteration and variation, like I was saying, the easy jumps are no different than the normal jump, as the platforming challenges can be passed either way. But once jumps require once jumps are introduced, like this one right here, that require the maximum jump height to be used to clear it, then the difficulty scale increases and the mechanic sort of evolves with the game as it goes to a tool for feedback rather than a backup safety net that allows them to clear the difficult task anyways. So I'm going to go back through here and just kind of go through my idea for the IPM section. So right here, like I showed before, it was the jump. Here we have normal jumps that can be cleared with the coyote time. And then if the player were to fail them, now they have to walk back, which gives it more stakes than here, where they can just immediately try again. And so then as we go along here, we'll introduce ourselves to the mastery section, where a coyote jump is no longer enough. As I said before, it has to be a fully held max jump, and then right here, the player, even by doing a max jump, can't reach it, because they have to use the other core part of movement that I had worked on, which is the ability to sprint, which you can do by holding down shift. There were a lot of issues with the character sliding around, kind of like they were on ice before, that were fixed. There were issues with the consistency of the speed. There were issues with when the audio was triggering for that, and then also when the player was hitting the ground. And then issues with how the sprint is used when the character is in the air. Do they keep sprinting while they're in the air? Can they start sprinting in the air? And then also handling like the input for when you stop so that it feels responsive. And so I'm going to go back up here, do this main jump, and then for this one you have to be sprinting in order to clear the jump. And then that'll be the final stage of the mastery over the jump mechanic. It's now using it along with another core part of the movement, showing that you can use multiple together. And then that's the end of my IPM course for the mechanic that I worked on. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this segment. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy how our project evolves.